Hey guys, Saion Gupta here, founder at 10x Coder Kids and an official Guinness record holder for the youngest computer programmer in the world. And today I'm going to tell you how to think like a programmer, how you can solve problems very easily. Okay, so over here I'm on HackerRank, one of the best coding problems platform. And let's take any medium level problem for now. Let's say encryption. All right. So, first of all, to solve this, what you have to do, you have to look at this text. All right, to read this text, and where there are the constraints that you don't have to pay much attention to. Over here, from the example, you have to understand the constraints. All right, and these examples that are given over here are very important. All right, so it's given that we have to encrypt the whatever string is given. All right, so you have to remove the spaces from the text first. So if this is the string, then we have to remove all the spaces first. All right, and let L1 be the length of this text. All right, and then the characters are written into a grid. Okay, so we'll form a grid and the characters will be added to that grid. All right, and these are the constraints for the characters to be added in the grid. So let's just go through these. Like root L floor is less than equals to row is less than equals to column is less than equals to root L seal, right, where this is floor and this is seal. Now looking at this, it's not very clear. That's why this first example is very important. Over here in the string, after removing the spaces, there are 54 characters. Root 54 is between 7 and 8. So the value of root 54 is between 7 and 8. So it is written in the form of a grid with 7 rows and 8 columns. So this is what you have. The, the smaller number, the floor number will be the number of rows, and the seal number will be the number of columns. Alright? And this is an example. This is what our grid will be. Alright? And we have to ensure that rows into columns is greater than equals to L, and if multiple grids satisfy the above condition, choose the one with the minimum area. All right, so there can be cases where multiple grids satisfy uh, like the condition, so you have to choose the one with minimum area. All right, but these 2 points are not very important. What is first important is to remove the spaces, form the grid without looking at these points, and if we are facing a problem with these 2 points in some test case, then we are going to solve them, solve for them. All right, and then finally the encoded message will be given by all the characters in the column. So it's imtgdvs, then fearwer, and so on. All right, so that will be your encrypted message. Now how are you going to write the code? What you're given is you are taking in the input, that will be a string, and you have to return a string in the encryption function. All right, that will be saved in result, and then that will be processed. All right, so we are given a string like this. Now to remove the spaces, what we are going to do, let's just loop and remove the spaces. So let's say S1 is a list. All right, and we are going to say for x in S. So we are taking every character in S if x is not equals to a space, because we don't want spaces. If it is not a space, then we are just going to say S1 dot append, and we are going to say x, whatever character is there. All right, and basically S1 is a list of all the characters in the string without any space. All right, next what we can do, we can use the join method to actually join the list. But before that, let's see if S1 is actually the list of characters, right? So after everything you do, you have to ensure that what you are intending to do has been done. All right, so if you run the code, okay, so the output is h okay, so what we have printed, okay, so we are not returning anything, so let's just say return empty string for now, so that error does not come, because it's expecting an empty string to be returned. So input is this, and output is nothing, but what we are printing is that print statement that we have over here, that is printing the list, that is printing a list of characters that we required. All right, now what we have to do, that's what we expected. So now what we are going to do, we are going to join the list of characters into a string. All right, so we are going to say this dot join, and we are going to say s1, and we are going to say, let's just override s, it's not advice, let's say s2. So string 2 will be the string, right, and that will be the joint string without any spaces. So let's print s2 to see if it works. So yeah, our s2 is the expected string that we required, right? Basically whatever we expected, it's the string without any spaces, right? In a sample test case, okay, so in none of the test cases there are any spaces. Okay, so that's pretty odd, but we have done the process of removing the spaces, and s2 is the string to work with now, right? So now we know that we have to work with s2. After that, what we have to do, we have to find out the root of its length. So let's do that. So let's say our, let's name our variable root length. Okay, so you can do better naming, but for now let's say root len, and let's say sqrt, that is the square root function, and we are going to say len of length of s2. So we are finding the square root of length of s2, math.sqrt length of s2. So whatever is the length of s2, we are finding its square root, and we are saving it in root len. Okay, so now root len should be the square root of whatever string we have. So if you print root len, after every step you should print whatever you have made, like whatever variable you have created, you should print its value to ensure that you're getting it correct. So let's see, we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Okay, and root 12 is 3.4 something. All right, so it's giving us the correct value. Now we are going to find its floor and the seal, right? Because that's what's given. We're going to find the floor, we are going to use the floor function to find its floor, and we are going to use the seal function to find the seal value, and that will be our respective rows and columns, because that's what given in the problem statement. So let's do that. Number of rows is equals to math dot floor, and we are going to say root len. Okay, and number of columns is equals to math dot floor, and we are going to say math dot seal root len. Okay, so we have the number of rows and the number of columns now. So let's print these two. Even though I'm pretty sure it will give us the correct whatever we expect, then also I'm just going to print it, because after every step you should print. So if we run this code, and we are getting 3 and 4, that's what we expected. All right, so now that we have a number of rows and number of columns, let's start creating our grid. So how are we going to go about it? As you can see, in each row the strings characters are coming, right? And there are 3 rows. Okay, so and there are 4 columns. So in each row we are going to add 4 characters of the string. All right, so what we are going to say, we are going to say for, okay, so let's think about it. First of all, you'll have to have a grid list, right? So you'll have a list, and then in this you'll have to create like the sub lists. So whatever are the number of rows, that many sub lists will be created in grid. All right, so what we are going to say, we are going to say for I in number of rows, we are going to for I in range, number of rows. The number of rows, we are looping on the number of rows, and we are adding those many lists in the grid. So we are going to say grid dot append, and let's say an empty list. Okay, so for now it's an empty list, and let's print grid to see what we are getting. In this case, in grid is a list with 3 sublists. Yeah, so it's a list with 3 sublists, and that's what we expected to get. All right. Next, what we have to do, we have to add the characters. All right. So after every fourth character, we have to move on to the next row. All right. So how are we going to do that? Let's say for let's say for okay, in this only what we can do, we can actually do that. Okay, so what we can do over here, we can say for j in range number of columns. Okay, I'll just explain why we are doing this, and we can say grid I dot append append mm, 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 okay, we can say grid j for now. Sorry, not grid j, grid I dot append s2j. Okay, and for the first case, this will, okay, I'm going to explain this just a second. But let's just think about the structure of the program. um, okay, so let me just first explain this. Each list that we are adding, that will each will have 4 characters, right? So we can't delete the characters. So actually we can work with s1, because s1 is a list, right? So we can say s1j, s2j we don't need to use right now. Maybe we don't need to use it, but we can say s1j, and then what we can do, we can say delete s1 s1j. Okay, so let's see what we are getting in grid. Let's say print grid. Let's see what we are getting in the grid. Okay, so we are getting an error list. Okay. Um. Okay. Okay, I'm going to tell you why this error is coming. Uh. So this, we can use a try statement. Except pass. Yeah, so this is not what we expected. HAVE. S1J. Okay, so you saw me struggling in the previous section, and that's completely normal. It happens with everyone because a programmer needs the silence to actually solve the problem. So I actually thought of it a bit, and I was think when I was, if I go back a little bit, Okay, so I tested many things, but I'm going to show you what exactly I did. So debugging is the key in the when solving a problem statement. You have to try different things, and then only you'll go and think about what can be correct. Okay, so we were here on delete s1j. So first of all, that error where I added try except, whenever you are getting an index out of range error, just use try except to just get rid of it. Because in this situation, I don't know, I know that it's not a major problem for me. If it's out of range, then we just have to stop over there, right? So we are going to say except pass, or even better, we are going to say break. All right, because if it is going out of range, that means all the characters have been given added in their respective rows and columns, and the characters have been like there are no more characters to be added, so we are going to break out of the loop. Second, when I was deleting s1j, what was happening? So let's see. S1, first of all, we can't work with S2 because when deleting, because you can't like delete or add into a string. All right, so in Python, so when deleting s1j, what was happening? Let's just visualize. Let's add a comment over here. Let's say this is our s1j, okay, and it has h a v e and so on. So let's just have these many characters. So I add the first character h in the grid, so that's good, but then I delete it. Okay, so it's gone. Now on the first index, whatever is over here, I'm adding that. So you see what is happening. A is on the 0th index. So A will not be added. Instead, V will be added. Because now it is on the first index that is going to be added. That's why our result that we expected, if I run this, the result that we expected, we are not getting that. It's just processing. Or have we gone into an infinite somewhere? No. So you see HV, because first it takes the 0th character, that was H, then it removes it, A comes in the 0th place and V comes in the first index place. Okay, so this does not work. Next, what I thought is, let's go over here. Next, what I thought is, due to this problem, I thought, let me just write out the whole let me just print s1 over here, print s1, so that we have s1 in all times with us. Okay, so this is our s1. All right, and if I paste it over here, yes, so this is our s1. Now next, what I thought is, I add these 4 characters and then I remove it, then I add these 4 characters and then I remove it. So okay, so what I tried is, I actually, after looping and adding all the characters, I said for m in range number of columns, and I said s1, I said delete s1 m. Okay, so if I run code, first of all, okay, it's giving out of range because at some point the list is ending, so I'll just add a try except over here. Okay, and I'll say delete s1m. Now as you can see, have is fine, but after that it should be ANIC, because have a nice day. So have a ANIC, so it should have been that, but you're getting AENC. So why is that? Because first we add these 4, then we remove them. Okay, then what we are doing, we are going, then again we are adding another list. We are saying for j number of columns, try grid I dot append s1j. So over here, looking at s1 is very important in real time. Okay, so what we are going to do, after removing, we are just going to print S1 just to see what we are getting in S1. Okay, so after the first one, we are left with A, E, N, C, E, D, A, Y. Okay, so I don't know where the I went. Okay, but this is clearly not working. Why? I don't know. I could not figure out. Maybe it's the like delete keyword is not working properly or something, but I could not figure out why this particular method is not working. Okay, so then this is also not working. So now you have to think for another method. And if you think closely, just let's delete all of this. In this loop, what do I have to do? Instead of deleting and like removing characters, can I have a step? So like after adding 4 characters, I'll have to start adding from here. Then after adding these 4 characters, I'll start adding from here. So we need a step counter. Now, how are we going to do it? Let's say L is our step counter, or let's say step, and it's 0 at first. And we'll add step over here. That's clear. Okay, so J plus step. Now, what you are going to do? Think. Basically, what I actually tried was, I actually tried incrementing step over here. So what I did not here, I actually did it here. So I thought maybe like after adding the 0th element we are increasing step and so on. But if you see, after adding the 0th element, 0 plus 0 is 0, then you increase step by 1, and j is also 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2. So it will add the third element on the second index, so that will also not work. If you try this, this is not going to work. Yeah, so it's not working at all. So last I figured out, the last thing I thought was, after adding the 0th element, after adding the first element, after adding the second element, second indexed element, and after adding the third indexed element, I want to start from adding the fourth indexed element. So how am I going to say j plus step is 4? When j will again be 0, I need to have step as 4 to actually start from 4, right? So after the loop ends, I'm going to say step plus equals to number of columns. Number of columns is 4. After adding 0, 1, 2, 3, we are going to increase step, and we are going to have the value of step to be 4. Now when j plus step is checked, it is actually 4, because 0 plus 4 is 4. So it adds the fourth element a. Then j is 1. 1 plus 4 is 5. So n. Then 2 plus 4 is 6. Then 3 plus 4 is 7. Right? And so on. After this, after coming to C, we come out of this loop, we increase step by 4. So first step was 4, now it is 8. 8 is E, right? And so on it goes. So basically this is how you are going to create the grid. This is how we have created the grid, and if I run this now, we are going to have the perfect grid that we required. Alright, so if you didn't understand, just try writing the logic yourself, or write a new logic that you yourself can understand. The key is to try different things out. If something does not work, then you have to think of something else that can work. Okay, so I first tried deleting inside the loop, then I created another loop to delete the elements. Then both of those, when they didn't work, then I moved on to the step method, and I thought if there was a step, then it would be easier, right? So the step method worked. Now finally, as the result, what we have to print is, we have to print HAE and VIAECY. So HAE AND VIA and ECY. Okay, so over here also we are going to use a for loop. So what we are going to say, we are going to loop on the grid for I in grid, or no, uh, 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 um, for I in range, mm, or we are going to say for I in grid. Okay, so we are looping on the grid and we are getting each list one by one. All right, but this won't work. This won't work for I in range number of columns. Range number of columns, I'm going to explain it in a second. Then for j in um grid, and for j in grid, yeah. And then we are going to say grid, grid, yeah, grid I, that will be our each element, and that will be yeah. So we are going to create a list over here. My list is equals to empty list. Grid I, we are going to say my list plus equals to grid I, and we are going to say my list, oh sorry, my list dot append grid I, and my list dot append an empty space. I'm going to explain this in just a second. And number of columns, yeah, number of, yeah, and finally last, we are going to just over here in the return statement, we're going to say um, this dot join my list. So this is going to work most probably, I'm not sure. Okay, it's not working. My list dot append grid I, grid, okay, sorry, ji, not grid I, ji. Okay, so some sample case worked. Test sample case 0 worked. Okay, sample case 2 did not work, and sample, okay, and sample case, in this we are getting an error. So for the error we can just add, but let me just explain how did sample case 0 actually work. So basically what happened is I looped on the number of columns. So the number of columns is 4, so I'm looping 4 times, and I'm looping on the grid. I'm getting each grid, each list of the grid, and I'm going to say, I'm saying my list dot append ji. J is the each list, and I is for 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. All right, so first we are adding all the 0th elements, then we are adding all the first elements, then we are adding all the second elements, and then we are adding all the third elements. All right, and after basically adding each word of our encrypted message, we are going to add a space, because over here we always had a space. All right, and then we just joined the list, and that was our output. But as you can see, in one case we are getting an error, that basically is because gi is out of range. If that is out of range, I told you we are going to use try except, and we're just going to say break, or we can say pass is more, I think, safer to use. Like, not safe, but like, okay, so sample case 1 also worked. It was just the error, all right, because it was going out of the range. Okay, so because of that error, it was going out of the range, so that's why it did not work, but now it is working. Now this sample case 2, our output is CLHLIO, but actually the expected output is CLUHLTIO. Okay, and what we are printing in our debug output, we are printing the grid. As you can see, the grid formed is not very correct. Why? Because chill out, it should be chill out, but it's just like stopping on chill o. Ut, a separate list for ut is not being formed. So let's see why. Chill out length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Root of 8 will give you around 2 point something, right? So that's why it's forming only two lists. Now you get it, because it's giving 2 point something, and its floor will give 2, and seal will give 3. So 2 into 3 is 6, and chill out has length 8. And they were saying ensure that rows into columns is greater than equals to L. If multiple grids satisfy the above condition, choose the one with minimum area. So, okay. So row is greater than equal to floor of root L, meaning they can be either floor of root L, or they can be more than floor of root L rows. Okay, you got it. So what we are going to do, okay, so this adds another complexity over here. We basically want to ensure that if number of rows into number of columns, okay, if number of rows into number of columns is less than the root length, no, not root length, it's less than the string length of the uh, length of s1, or you can say s2. If it is less than that, then we are going to increment number of rows by 1. Now why is that because they are saying constraint rows into columns should be greater than equal to L. So if it is strictly less than the length of the string, then we are just going to increment the number of rows by 1. So now our test sample cases have worked, and if we submit the code, I'm not sure if all the test cases will pass. Okay, it's taking pretty long to actually. Oh, so all of the test cases passed. So I'm not saying this is the best way to do it. I was just like coding it live on the video, so that's why this is what I thought of and I could come up with. But there must be multiple ways and much better ways to solve this problem. Alright? But you have to think logically and structurally how you are going to solve the problem, how you are going to tackle it. These were sub conditions that were to be ensured later. First, the main conditions were to remove the spaces, to create a grid, and to write the encrypted message. After that, we saw that we were getting a wrong result when because of one condition was not being fulfilled, because in chill out, the word chill out, it's 8 characters long, right? It's 8 characters long, but it's like root of 8 is between 2 and 3, right? It's 2 point something, so its floor is 2 and seal is 3, and they are saying 2 in the rows into columns should be greater than equal to L, the length of the string, and 2 into 3 is 6, length of the string was 8, so it was not greater than equal to L, and this condition was not being met. Now you must be thinking, over here where I increased the number of rows by 1, I could have also increased number of columns by 1. But why didn't I do that? Because if you see the test case, or if you see what the problem was, if I just comment this, if I run the code, you are actually going to see that if I had one more list, I would have gotten the 2 missing characters, that was U and T, right? So it's chill out. So we were getting chill O, and UT was left. So UT would only be added if we were increasing the row, right? And we would have gotten this result only if we had increased the row. Actually it would have worked by increasing the column also. We could have incorporated ut by increasing the column also, right? We could have added one more column, so it would be chil, and over here it would have been lout. All right, but then our expected output would not meet. We would have l h o and so on. Okay, so you get my point, that looking at what is happening in your what is expected as an output and what you are actually doing, you are going to accommodate that. And as I could see, by increasing the number of rows by 1, my code would work. I did that and it did work. All right, so this was the, like, the coding problem, and total breakdown of the problem and how you could go about solving it. There are many other ways. Please comment down below if you like this video, and if I should come with such problems in the future. Thank you.